2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Peter, Peter, Peter. What's up, fam? Elijah Shidler here, and welcome back to another episode of EXTOL WE. And this week, Peter, Jordan, myself are the extra, and our fathers are the ordinary. The videos that went live this last week are I am Peter McKinnon, connected 3.5 years ago in the past, a video called Greater Works Still. I wanted to record this video for you outside. I kept getting interrupted by people. Everybody and their dog literally stopped to talk to me. I wanted to record my video on the bench where I recorded the second video for my dad on my channel, Extraordinary Life with Elijah, where I celebrate how the capacity that I have in seeing vision and beauty and the extraordinary in every detail of life was imparted to me by my father. An experience where he asked me, Elijah, tell me about carrots. And I very condescendingly said, yeah, dude, they're orange, they're crunchy, they're long. Like, how do you not know what a carrot is? In that context of my angsty immaturity, that he held up a seed that we were planting in our garden. And he said, I agree, but Elijah, how do they grow out of these little bitty seeds? First moment of extraordinary insight into life, and I never have looked back. I wanted to record this video on that bench, bring it full circle, but literally people just kept stopping and talking to me for 2 hours, and I finally just gave up, retreated home to my garage. So this is what you get. Friends, coming into this video, that there has been such a flurry of insecurities that I've discovered in my life. As Peter talks about in his video, I'm just happier, that he says, maybe I'm just in my own way, that he said as he started out making content, he would just make content of everything and anything, and it was so easy and fun. But that the longer that he goes in video creation, that it just gets harder and harder, and that he winds up getting in his own way. Friends, that is the process of creativity. That insecurity is the discovery of a false security. And so the creative process helps to refine our hearts and our minds and our self-image in order to become more confident in who we are, to love ourselves more, so that in our content that we produce to the world, to love others, that we can love others as we love ourselves. Now, being yourself is the easiest and the hardest person to be. It's the easiest and hardest. Easiest in the fact that it's as easy as breathing. In fact, it's so incredibly easy that we very often aren't aware of who we are, because it's very difficult to discover who you are in a mirror by yourself. As philosophers have said, it was most likely not fish who discovered water. We need people who are outside of us, outside of our context, to experience the environment, the atmosphere that we're moving in, to report to us, did you know that you are really good at breathing water, fish? That's where it's so vital to be in a context of community, to come back and to gift honor to one another, to give personal testimony about how the grace of other people's lives have impacted your own, because it helps them to discover who they are, discover what they do, and to love and to value that with deep contentment. Out of that, it's the easiest person to be, but it's also the hardest. I don't know about you, but I very often find myself acting like someone who I am not. I do that out of a context to self-protect myself. If I live persona forward, that I'm acting like someone else and taking cues from society and what's popular, and just doing that to get likes and not to be criticized, as that persona goes in front of me, if I create something as someone who I'm not, if that gets stabbed by a critic, it's my front line of security to help I notify myself, hey, someone is coming after you and getting close, and they have a knife out, and so maybe you should protect yourself. And it gives me advance warning to shift and modify that to self-protect. But in that context, I wind up not being known, and I don't wind up giving away the authentic gift that I have to help empower other people with the good works and the grace that I have on my life. So that's the process. And in pushing into this, that again, these insecurities came up of you're speaking to direct people. You're not just speaking to a wide audience of people. You are targeting specific people that you don't have direct relational connection with, and speaking into very deep things of their life. And I don't know how that's going to turn out in that context. I had to go back to the drawing board in journaling. I call my pen the pry bar of the soul. And when my heart is not at rest, I stick that thing in, hoist down on that cap, dive into my heart's contents to find out what's in there, that before I speak out of my heart, out of the overflow of my heart, that my mouth starts running. I want to find out, why is my heart not at rest, so that I don't release that nasty to the rest of the world. And this is what popped out. I can't export what I don't have an excess of in my person. Creators cannot export content past the capacity of their internal world. When creators are no longer exporting and uploading, but are downloading and importing, they have ceased to serve others with the strength of their content and have begun to invest in their insecurity via the resource of people paying attention to them. This is not being a creator, but a consumer. The intent of not taking anything to market through content, but content, has become a social media funnel to siphon off the resource of addicted attention to fund your own personal selfishness. Creativity is the maturing vision of self-control within author ability. Creativity captivates attention by framing complexity within stylized beauty as meaning. Simply stated, creators create. The beauty of YouTube is that it is a vein of media-aided connection that I can release the content of my content to the world and love them the way that I love myself. The creative process is a discovery of what I confidently love about myself, so I can export value to the world in their pursuit of discovering their own content in the beauty that is their extraordinary life. I am a content creator. Friends, when Peter's video went live, it had been watched already 52 times in the dark, and all views of those was this guy. Friends, I love my content. I'm very content with it, and I watched it over and over and over and over, just reveling in the beauty of this expression that I was able to extract from extreme complexity out of the overflow of my self-love of the content that I make. And I'm so content with it that then I'm able to export that to the world to be a content creator. This is what I love about myself. This is what I love about you. And I want you to be as content with your extraordinary life as I am with mine. That's what then has given me the confidence and the courageous creativity to come to the rest of the world to express my delight in one Peter McKinnon. The very first video that I ever saw of Peter's was on January 13th, 2017, the day after my father Roger's birthday on January 12th. Peter was talking about how he was stuck in a one-way job at an insurance company, living the cubicle rat life and answering the phone and letting his capacity, his dreams and creativity be constrained into a box that helped to achieve the agenda of his boss, but it was not helping him to go in the way that he should go. That his heart broke out of that jail in pursuit of his passions in New York with his cousin, to take pictures, do video, and to live his best life. But in that context, he was living a double life and was calling his insurance company, telling them that he was sick. And when he got home, HR busted him and fired him. Now, in the video where he tells about this on himself, as I watched that video, the expression of his courage to step out into what he knew that he wanted to pursue jumped the gap and lit something in me that had become a smoldering wick many years previously. When I was with my wife in El Salvador from 2012 to 2014, that I began to see that I have this unique capacity to see beauty within very negative situations. As a result of great pain and difficulty in my life, I've had lots of opportunity to sit in very dark spaces and to allow the development of my life in the dark room of pain to work the image of hope into me as I stared into the very negative images of life that was called my own. Now, as I came out of the dark room of character development into the light of life, that then people began to say, like, wow, you carry a very vibrant image of hope within you and very negative images. If you didn't grow up in the 80s, you probably don't remember going to Kmart and getting packages of actual film that your family shot of your birthday party on a disposable camo that had negative images stuffed into the front pocket of it. But friends, as a little kid, I was so fascinated with the negatives that I looked at them more often than I did the actual pictures. I'd put them up on the windows of the car as we were driving home, and the off-putting colors, it looked like alien landscapes, and I would just wonder, how does that negative image translate to this correctly color balanced exposed picture? It's just been a part of my life ever since I was a little kid. But as I began to have people report, like, how do you create these images of beauty within very negative things? I was like, doesn't everybody do this? Everybody shook their heads and said, no, we do not. You should teach other people how to do that. That's when the idea was born, that I should start making videos to just share my experiences with the world. And if I show people enough times, this is how I see this hopeful image in the midst of systemic poverty and oppression in a government, and how it's beautiful, and it shows how they're courageous and they're persevering and how I've learned from them. If I do that enough times, people may be able to figure out how to do that for themselves. In that time period then, a team that came down to help us with what we called a media blitz to support what we were doing, the gentleman heard my vision and said that he would sell his Canon 5D Mark II to me for $1,000. It had super low clicks. I did not know what a deal that was, but at that time, it's like, there's no way. I don't know how to run a camera. That's so expensive. And I told him no, and then tried to sell it to my brother-in-law and said, no, dude, that was a friend price. I'm not selling that to a stranger that I don't believe in for $1,000. Moving forward then into 2017, I was in the middle of a very difficult season of my life. I was in a leadership position, and it felt like I was just leading to a brick wall and just drowning myself in this rising tide of my own passions that were not being consumed by other people, but I was just being choked on as they echoed back into my face unreceived. I resented the place that I was in. I felt like I was in a cubicle in an insurance office that was ensuring the status quo of what people wanted in their life, and I was tired of picking up the phone. That's why when Peter shared his video, that vision, that passion, that courageous creativity jumped the gap. I went back to the beginning of all of his videos, watched episode 1 through what you called episode 12, Peter, but it's actually the 11th video on your channel. Not like that's important to me. And I've watched every single video moving forward from that point. Fast forward from January 13th, 7 months later, to August 13th on my birthday. That was the day I stepped out. I said, no more, I can't do it. And went on this journey to pursue an expression of the authentic overflow of my heart's passions together within a creative community. I find that so incredibly poignant, friends, that on the day after my father's birthday, that Peter would impart grace to my life to empower me 7 months later to finish a race on my birthday and to step out into this new birth experience, to restart and to reinvent myself in an expression of authentic destiny in the way that I should go. As I continued then to engage Peter's process, that I got to then see the video that he had, that he helped to empower Jordan into by inviting her out into the 72-hour creators competition. Jordan, previous to her competition, had been also praying through this vision of stepping out into YouTube creation, making videos, and that she'd been toying this through in prayer and thoughts and desires, wasn't taking the step of just making it happen. When Peter gave the call, she was with her cousin and said, I should do that. No, I shouldn't. But then took the step in the last 24 hours of the competition, made her video, submitted it, and was one of the 3 winners in that competition. In seeing that video then, I was able to be introduced to Jordan through Peter, and then Jordan's creative process became such an incredible, encouraging source of perseverance to me in my process in some very low creative places in my life. Friends, coming into then this season of I am Peter McKinnon and greater work still. That was so beautiful to see that Peter was leaving his PMHQ when I recorded my video on the August 5th, marking the end of my season 6, moving into my season 7 that I recorded 3.5 years in advance. That coming into this season, again, that Peter is remodeling his space, that he's changing things up. He's breaking outside of his cubicle and wrestling through the insecurity of Peter's changing his space again. Peter, is so incredibly easy to be yourself, but it's also the hardest thing. You've been breaking out of cubicles for a long time, and it's on point with the brand of who you are as your person. Beyond brand, it runs in parallel with your person, your destiny, and how you're made. You pursue excellence, and excellence is ever expanding. If you only and always live in the same box of creativity, yep, that's going to constrain your excellence. You're not afraid of breaking outside of your creative box. It's just what you do. You're constantly in pursuit of the next expression of your boundless excellence. Never give in to the cubicle confinement. That's so beautiful getting to see that he's in this space again, but that just previous to this, so difficult to hear about his process of walking through the loss of his father, Monty McKinnon. As I began to press into more, learning about who Monty was and the kind of life that he lived and when he had passed away and when he had been born, that I also began to investigate those things with Jordan as well. And as I did that, I found out that Jordan likewise had lost her father at the end of 2025. Her father was not a public figure, and I surmise was a very private, quiet man. And so I'll keep his identity confidential. But it was beautiful to find out the process of his passing and to see this expression of beautiful meaning rising from the aspects of very negative and difficult life circumstances. Friends, as you know, if you've been with me for any amount of time on Extraordinary Life with Elijah or EXTOL WE, you know that out of this season of stepping out of ministry, it's so much pain and hurt and confusion, that God called me away into the space of spending time with him in my crawl space, putting it granny low, the crawl space of my house, praying into the foundational issues of my life, character, the church, all the meaning of the universe in the dark room with him, to allow him to develop the picture and the image of beauty of my life into my life before it came out into the light of day. God called me into my crawl space on November 7th, 2017 at 22:33 in the evening. I moved forward in that space with God, to him revealing then the vision of Extraordinary Life with Elijah in a dream in the night on March 17th, 2018. I woke up, saw the clock, it was 1:23 a.m., and God said, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, so 3, 2, 1, go. Now here, 6 years later, I'm still trudging away in that vision. Now, fast forward from there to November 7th, 2021, when my friend George, part of my faith family, came to me on November 7th, which was his birthday, and gave me a word of encouragement that was so incredibly powerful and poignant. George, no one knew what I was doing, recording 7 years of video content in the secret over a 3.5-year period without telling anyone. That George spoke very specifically to that process through his spiritual gifting and encouraged my heart so powerfully. 4 days later, I was back in Indiana celebrating the passing of my grandfather, my last living grandparent, my grandpa Scheidler, and recorded my halfway video in my Extraordinary Life with Elijah process on my grandfather's land. That's 11 acres that he paid $11,000 for on November 11th, which is 11/11, Remembrance Day, to mark the halfway point of this journey that I was on with God. Come to find out later that then Jordan, her birthday, it's on November 11th. Came back from my memorial with my grandpa, absolutely revitalized to continue forward in my process, and recorded a testimony video for my friend George to play for him 4 years later on his 67th birthday, which fell on November 7th, 2025. While I was celebrating this expression of spiritual inheritance in my life from a beautiful friend and playing in this video that was recorded in the secret and then played for him, that on the exact same day that I was celebrating my friend George's retirement, that Monty came to the end of his race of life and passed into glory with the Father. Friends, it says that we are all God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works that he established for us in advance, that God knit us together in the secret place of our mother's wombs, and that he marked out all of the pages of our life before one of them came to be, and that the loving hand of a father started the front book cover of Monty's life, that all the pages of his life were lived out. And on November 7th, the God's loving hand formed the back cover, closed the book, and brought a beautiful story of glory home to be placed on a shelf in his house as a treasure, as one of his most powerful and beautiful stories. That my start line, which began on November 7th, 2017, that my start line, that 8 years later, could be the finish line of Monty's life, to mark that portion in having received grace through him, through his son Peter, is absolutely astounding to me. That as I began to then look into Jordan's life and the passing of her father, that I found out that her father had passed away on October 28th, 2025, and October 28th just so happens to be, Peter's birthday. Friends, it's so incredibly beautiful to see that then creativity captivates attention by framing complexity within stylized beauty as meaning. Seeing the expression of Peter's life, Jordan's life, and my life, and seeing how this empowerment of grace and encouragement that's overflowing each one of our lives, that is oriented to start lines and stop lines of birthdays and entrance of identity into the earth, is absolutely mind-blowing. Jordan's father, in having been born and giving birth to Jordan and then loving her, pouring his life out into her, raising her up in the way that she should go, and that the finish line of his story would be marked by a man's life who was born, that started his life on that exact same day, that has imparted grace to a man's daughter to empower her in the way that she should go beyond what she was being able to be empowered by her home culture, but was empowered to move forward through the grace and the power of Peter's life, is astounding. And that Peter, that your expression that came to me at the start line of my father's life, that imparted grace to me to start my race 7 months after having heard the expression of your life, and then being able to come back and tell you about what God's doing in my life to support you. It's absolutely beyond the wildest imagination of complexity. As I was coming into these videos, I was so taken with my content in the content that God is producing in and through my life. That on February 7th, that I was dreaming of the video that I made for Jordan, that I made for Peter. I was reliving them in my mind and just celebrating them, meditating on them. And as I was watching it in my dream, that I was likewise praying in the night in my dream with God. I was telling him, God, this is so beautiful. This is so amazing how you did this. Jordan's video is 3, 2, 1 on Extraordinary Life with Elijah. It was really close to 1, 2, 3 on EXTOL WE. It would have been really awesome if they were exact, super close. And while I'm rambling on, that the Father's like, did you look into and consider all of my works that I've done through? Did you consider them carefully? Yes, Father, absolutely. I love it. I see it. It's so beautiful. No, Elijah, have you considered all of my works that I have done through you? Oh yes, absolutely. Wait a second. You did that in greater work still? Wait, what do you say? No, what are you doing? Friends, that as the Father began to say these things to me, that I then started clawing to the surface of consciousness to see what time it was. Say like, is it late enough in the night that I can get up and go and pursue these things to see what it is that God is doing? Friends, when I woke up, I looked at my alarm clock and it said 2:46 a.m. And God said, greater works still. Friends, that was it. I was done. I jumped out of bed. I had to pursue the info. I had to pursue the mystery with Jesus to find out what he was doing. I went to my YouTube channel, went back to the beginning, began to look through all of my episodes. EXTOL WE episode number 1, 2, 3, 4. As I'm going through all of the numbers in my videos, checking to see where they're at. Friends, I get up to episode number 37 and it jumps from 37 to 39. Episode 38 is missing. I'm like, Jesus, you stop it. You stop it with your silliness. That means that episode 39 is actually episode 38. Episode 40 is actually episode 39. I keep scrolling forward. I get to episode 58. There's 2 videos from my kids saying their Bible verses, and it makes another jump to episode number 60. Friends, that means episode number 60 is actually episode 58. 61 is 59. Friends, I finished it out. I went all the way to the end. Those are the only 2 episodes that I mislabeled. Therefore, episode 125 is actually episode 1, 2, 3. Friends, it's absolutely bonkers and bananas. It's absolutely crazy. It's so abstract that it's nuts. It drives me absolutely wild with passion that Jordan's video is 1, 2, 3 on EXTOL WE and 3, 2, 1 on Extraordinary Life with Elijah. Then as I began to look at those things, friends, that in this expression of her life, walking out of things that are as easy as 1, 2, 3, so 3, 2, 1, go Jordan. At the end of my Extraordinary Life with Elijah, and the video that I made on February 4th, that I've created 8 times exactly the amount of content that was posted live to Jordan's channel. And that out of that then the things that are so easy to her as 1, 2, 3, and the things that are so easy to me as 1, 2, 3 become 2, 4, 6, and the expression of 8. The beauty is that 8 years after I started my journey on November 7th, under my crawl space, that Monty passed on into glory at exactly the 8-year mark. 8 times the media that I produced on Extraordinary Life with Elijah over Jordan's, and that Peter, that you're coming into your 8th season. And that last week I celebrated that Jordan's video with her and her husband had been watched 888 times. Friends, it's so incredibly beautiful seeing all of these places of intersectionality of destinies and creativity that are highlighting that what you're doing it matters, that it's overflowing to the lives of other people, and that it's empowering them to do the good works that they've been called to do. Friends, as absolute coup de grace of awesome, that in my reproductive respiration paradigm of life, that parents impart a 3 times inheritance to their children. And that's expressed as 111, 1, 1, 1. And that 111 squared is 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 12,321. As parents pass along that inheritance to their kids, that their kids multiply it times 2, and it becomes 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. And the faithfulness of them doing greater work still, that they come back to their parents in honor and say, here and now, I return to you the inheritance you gave me, doubled. Now within that, friends, that my question became, how many videos are on Monty McKinnon's YouTube channel? I motored over to his channel to see how many videos he had made, to then divide that with Peter's videos and my videos and see what I could discover. Never got that far, because when I got to Monty's channel, Monty had posted to his channel before he passed 333 videos. Family, this is so incredibly beautiful to me that then in this expression of Monty gifting the life and the destiny and the inheritance and the good works that Peter has to do through his covenant relationship with his wife. Peter then has this expression of 111. He made instruments for people who had a sound inside of them that needed to be set free, that could take that instrument and make the strings sing of their heart being expressed through this beautiful instrument that Monty had made. And that my father, that he loves growing things. If Adam ever needs a replacement in managing the garden, my dad will slide in as his understudy. But that as I sat with him and played in the dirt with worms and planted things, that my father planted a capacity in me that has now grown into something that's so far beyond what my father ever saw in teaching his son how to plant a garden. And that Jordan's father, while Peter ran away from the insurance cubicle, that he was very passionate about gathering around other people and being a safety net in times when people were hurting, and to be a place of strength that they could fall back into in dark times. But that then he imparted his love to his daughter, and she became an instrument that was totally different as well. The three destinies of Peter in 111, that Elijah in a destiny of 111, that Jordan in a destiny of 111 are all gathering together to come back to affirm that the 333 videos of Monty's life expressing his love to empower the world are now being planted in the lives of other people. That there's a representation of the 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1 doubled expression of inheritance that's being testified to, that Monty ran his life with good faithfulness. Peter, I want to come back to you as well to say thank you so much for your faithful perseverance in your process. That as you've pressed forward and you were asked the question, do you ever think about the people in the lives of those that you're impacting? That you're only and ever speaking to one person. That you're not even speaking to me, you're speaking to yourself. That we love others in the way that we love ourselves. And in your creative process, that you've learned to love yourself well in the things that you enjoy. That you're taking those things, you're crafting them into a timepiece of excellence that can set on your coffee table that you can be proud of. That you're pressing into new things and immortalizing it in an expression of a life lived well in a creative context. Friend, I want to bless you with the example of your father that was lived so well before you. That the story of his life, that powerful story always wins. A man whose expression of all the pages of his life that were written out and closed into a most beautiful story, that the same could be true of you as well. That a beautiful story is being written in and through you, one page at a time. And I'm so honored and joyful to be able to share a day that marks the living of a great man, and that picture could be on the front portion of a book that is being created in and through your life. So together, we gather around you as your community to say 2, 4, 6, 8, who do we appreciate? Peter, Peter, Peter. So if you subscribe to what I'm doing, my friends, then hit the button, hit it, and then get it. Hit the bell as well so you get notified with the new content. I am a content creator. And if you love this video, you didn't just like it, like, that's neat. Yeah, kind of cool. No, you didn't just like it. You loved it. Hit the thumbs down button. I pray blessings on all of our lives together. I love you guys. Lots. And I will see you in the next video.